Very good. Here's a story. I read this. This was once in a Chabad publication. It must have been 30, 40 years ago. And I checked it out, and it really could be true. Could be true. I mean, time-wise, it worked. The story goes like this. It was in the days of the American Revolution. And there was in the Revolutionary Army, if you want to call it that, of George Washington. He was the general, he was the leader. And the Jews were, the Americans were fighting for their freedom. And the British were well armed and they were well organized, and they were trained fighters and trained army, and they had, and the Americans had none of the above. And they lost battle after battle. And finally came to this place called Valley Forge, where the American forces, they sort of retreated, and they had this sort of, tried to keep this sort of secret place, and they tried to regroup and retrain and this, but still they were pretty disheartened by the defeats that they had previously. Well, the story is that they didn't even have really enough garments and blankets and things like that. And there were people that were sleeping like outside. And it was cold. It was in the winter. One of the soldiers was a Jew by the name of Solomon. And he realized that he was laying there in the cold, and he realized that it was Chanuka, first night of Chanuka. So he was a religious Jew, and he had brought along with him a little tiny Chanuka menorah, maybe like the length of a finger or something. And he had little wicks that he put in there. And he had a little bottle of oil. It all came together in like some sort of a little kit or something, a little bottle of oil. So he lit the candle, first candle, and he covered it over. He's laying there outside, covered it over with his sheet, with his blanket. And he made 3 blessings, and he was looking at the candles. All of a sudden, he heard someone yelling at him, "Put that fire out. You're a spy. You're a traitor. I'm going to kill you." Over here, somebody draws his soul. He looks up. At his feet is standing George Washington, the general of of all the troops. And he says, "What is that light? You're signaling to the enemy that we're here." So he said, No, General, it's not so. I'm not. I'm a Jew." So he says, "So what? You're Jew? What difference does it make?" He says, "No, this is a Jewish holiday." So Washington says, "Oh yes, tell me what holiday is. I happen to know Judaism." So he says, "The holiday of Chanuka." So he said, "You're a liar. There's no holiday like that. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible." So the Jew said, "You're right. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible." It doesn't. This is in the middle of the Second Temple. The Bible doesn't talk about the Second Temple in the Chronicles. This was a war. The Jews fought a war against the Greeks, and they were tremendously outnumbered. And meanwhile, Washington is standing there with his sword just ready to stab him. And he said, and you should know, General, that we Jews, we were outnumbered, and we were outgunned, and we were outmaneuvered. But nevertheless, we fought because we had determination. We were devoted to the truth, and therefore we won. And you, the same thing, General. All of a sudden, this Jew got an inspiration. You also, General. Our troops are outnumbered, but because we're fighting for the truth, therefore I'm sure that we'll win. So Washington put his sword back in the sheath, and he said, "Okay," he said, "I believe you. You don't have to put the lights on, just cover it over with your blankets so nobody sees it." He said, "What you just said now, I take as a prophecy. You Jews are a nation of prophets. And what you said now, I take as a prophecy from God, that just as you won, we'll win now. Thank you. But keep the light covered over." Good. And they went on, and they won the war. They won the war. They won battle after battle, and they won the Revolutionary War. And afterwards, everybody went home, and this Solomon, he went back home, and he opened the printing press or whatever in Boston. And one day, Solomon hears a knock on his door, His wife opens the door, and there is standing George Washington. He's now the president of the United States, and he's got his some of his whatever it is, his entourage is with him. Can we come in? He's dressed really fancy. General Washington, if I would have known, Mr. President, if I would have known, you would have. So he comes in. Of course, you can come in, but the house is not clean. Can we? Don't worry about it. I said, do you remember me? I said, of course, I remember you. You were the general. You were the leader. You're the president of the United States. So he said, well, Washington said, more than you remember me, I remember you. He said, remember that night that I met you and you told me that that prophecy? He said, of course I remember. He said, well, you should know that. Did you ever think to yourself, why was I wandering around among the troops? He said, I decided that I was going to surrender to the enemy. I had made up my mind that we had no chance of winning. And I was just sending these boys to their death, and we wouldn't accomplish anything anyway. So I decided the next morning, I was going to go to the British and I was going to hand over my sword and tell them on the condition that they let everybody go. When I saw you and you told me this message of hope and of encouragement, so I decided I'm going to continue the war, that we'll win like the Jews did. And therefore, when he presented him a medallion that said with appreciation from General Washington and the President of the United States, and it had a menorah on it, and it was in his family, the family of Solomon, for years, I don't know, until it finally got lost somewhere or other. Anyway, according to the story, I checked it out as much as I could, and it could be true. In any case, according to the story, the fact of the matter is the Jews really did defeat an army which was the odds were much greater than the American army against the British. The Americans were outnumbered 3-1, 4-1. Here they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Right? It made no sense. And when it says tens of thousands so they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. There's never been a war like that. So the Jews really did win. But according to this story, the whole America, Arts at the Brit that we have now today, comes because of this one little light of one little Jew that with self-sacrifice lit a candle which eventually illuminated the whole world. And so will be with the Mashiach. That's what Mashiach means. He was anointed with oil. One Mashiach will illuminate the whole entire world and change all of the priorities of all mankind. And the third Beis Hamikdash will be reinstated. All the Jews will come back to Israel, and the world will be a wonderful, beautiful, happy, meaningful, blessed place with Mashiach now. Hope to see you at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, we're learning Chumash and Halacha, and we're starting new Mishnayot. We're going to start the Pesachim today. So God bless you all. Have a good day. Shalom.